Right, Deathmatch Arena. A fun, flavorful new card. An interesting fable, but personally, it is a horrible card, right? This is a really bad to play, horrible designed card. It's fun, it's interesting, don't get me wrong, but in a game like Flesh and Blood that is highly competitive, even in UPF, this is a absolutely horrid card to play. We'll go over why, right? That's the whole reason of this video. Just thought it'd be a little fun, interesting discussion, as I personally do play a lot of Melody, and that's usually who's tied to this card, or it looks like a great Melody card. It's not a great Melody card. We'll go over why, but also, right, again, personal opinion. So if you do think this card is, fun, flavorful, which I'm not arguing, it is fun, it is flavorful, but it is just a horribly designed card, I'd love to hear why, right? Why is this interesting outside of, again, just being fun and unique? So why is it a bad card? Well, it's effect. Go again. Heroes can attack any opposing hero. When a hero deals lethal damage to another hero, they create gold tokens equal to the number of heroes who started this game. Now, the easiest way to break this down from my personal perspective is it's a UPF card, right? So that means 4 people at a table usually. So you're getting upside, but so are 3 other people. You are playing a card. You're losing 1 card from hand to gain upside and give upside free of charge to 3 other people at the table, right? At any point where you want to go straight for this second effect, it is now a -1 to whatever your combo is that you're trying to finish off an opponent. Now, obviously, you've got the surprise element of attacking the person across from you, but again, you're losing 1 card in hand to potentially get gold tokens that you then have to pay to pop in a following turn, right? This is not a good card. This is not a great payoff in any hero. Even Betsy and Victor, who are by far the best heroes for this card, because you have instant ways to make use of those gold tokens, it is still too slow and gives everyone else, right, 3-1, an upside, which is not a card you'd ever really want to play in a competitive setting. Now, for fun UPF matches, right, it's fun. Someone has to take the card loss, sure, but it's fun, flavorful. It's just not like any other Fable we've seen. And again, pricing wise, unless you're playing it in a joking UPF, which from what I've seen, it's pretty cut down the middle. There are people who take UPF incredibly serious, want to play a really competitive deck and just beat 3 people at once. But then there are people who just play in a fun setting, and this is a fantastic card for that, and it's probably going to be dirt cheap, so that will make it interesting and exciting, but it is just not a well-designed card. Again, if we compare it to Crossroads, for instance, that's the most comparable because it's a landmark as well. You play it, you can't pitch it, you play it, it's on board, it gives both players upside. The difference is, this is very static effects that automatically give your opponent upside, right? Give everyone at the table upside of being able to attack anyone, and also a chance of triggering that secondary effect, which in itself, the secondary effect, I still don't like that much. But the main issue is still, again, you're losing 1 card in hand to give everyone else at the table upside. Compared to Crossroads. So Crossroads, when you arrive at it, whenever a hero reveals a card, so Fuse is the main target of this, they can pick gain a resource or life, or the next attack this day gets +1. So you've got 3 different effects to pick between, as well as, the defense, you've got 4 different effects to pick between. But again, the crux is revealing a card. Now, in an elemental deck, that's a given, right? You're going to fuse cards, you're going to be revealing cards, and this is a fantastic way to recoup the loss of having to hold a card in hand rather than pitching it for resources or using it for its effect. So that makes Crossroads a lot better. Now, the difference for your opponent is, 1, you only have 1 opponent. I mean, you could play this in UPF, but in a normal setting for where this card is designed for, you, again, only have 1 opponent. So they are equal to you, 1-to-1, right? The same amount of people are gaining the upside. Rather in UPF, where again, you're playing a card to give 3 other people upside. 2, the reveal card. That is not going to suit every opponent you're playing against. Again, in an elemental deck, so the one running this, it is a given. Your opponents might not have any cards to reveal. They might not be elemental, it might not be an inbuilt effect. So their chance to gain upside is just that, a chance. It's not a static effect like Deathmatch Arena. Funny enough, I think a reveal mechanic would have been pretty cool because it would have synergized with Clash. Or even say some sort of wager mechanic where the other people in the UPF match can wager on the wager, if that makes sense, right? So they can side and they get the benefit. So if they pick the attacker, if the attacker wins the wager, they also get the gold token or whatever token you're generating, and vice versa. I think that could have been an interesting design. I'm also not mentioning the library because the library is even more player favored, right? So obviously the person playing it is most likely going to be light and therefore want yellow. So your opponent has even less chance of benefiting off of that card than Crossroads. The other crux is this does not get weaker as time goes on. Deathmatch Arena does, right? As opponents drop out, someone's reaping the benefit of that secondary effect, but you're also losing the want for you may attack any opposing hero, right? So in UPF, you may only target heroes and objects controlled by those heroes to your immediate left and right. And in a classic 4-player setting, that means after one opponent's out, you have no benefit. It is now just a dead card on board other than that secondary effect. Again, we will get into why I personally don't like the secondary effect that much. So in a huge all-out brawl, again, fun, flavorful. If you've got more than 4 people at the table, it's going to have a lasting impact. If you only have 4, if you're, again, using the tournament structure, it is not a good fable. Every other fable has sizable upside to the controller, right? Every gem has only upside to the controller, and again, Crossroads has sizable upside because the controller is automatically elemental and it's automatically running a fuse-ish deck, right, where they have cards to reveal and benefit from the effect. In a UPF match, again, it is that ratio of 1 to 3 that, to me, makes the card a lot worse, because you don't want to be playing a card to give your opponent upside, other than in a fun, flavorful match. Now, as for the secondary effect, so when a hero deals lethal damage to another hero, they create gold tokens equal to the number of heroes who started this game. If this was solely, right, when a hero deals lethal damage to another hero, you create gold tokens, that would be fantastic, right? And then it'd be a race to see who gets us out. Or even if they snack, that would still be fantastic. You put this on board, and whenever someone gets KO'd, everyone's reaping rewards. I think that is sizably different to this effect. So again, your mentality for this card in a competitive style would be, well, I am going to try and KO this person, so now I can play Deathmatch Arena. This means that I'm losing 1 card from hand or arsenal, depending on where the arena is. Can I still pull off that KO? Or now do I have to wait till they're a little bit weaker? Again, losing a single card from hand is a big deal in Flesh and Blood. If this had the ability to block somehow or pitch, even though that doesn't really make sense, right? Then yeah, it'd be more balanced, it'd be more usable. But again, it has this one-dimensional effect that's, again, upside for everyone, loses its benefit once there are 3 or less people in UPF, and even opens you up to being attacked by another player at the table. You've spent a card to now have one more opponent be able to KO you. And then the secondary effects where you have to, A, trigger it. Anyone can trigger it. So you have to worry about timing. You can't just play it as soon as you have it, unless, again, you want to just play it for fun and flavorful reasons. And then even creating the gold tokens is not a bigger impact as you might think. Now, the argument, once again, is, cool, generates gold tokens, allows us to attack anyone, must be a Melody card. No. So at any point where this is beneficial, right, think through the scenario. For you to KO your opponent, you're most likely going into the final act combo, even if it's a small one, meaning that you have most likely depleted resources in hand. Whether you're doing the normal song, play copper, you're still pitching cards to draw, and you're losing cards in hand. So by the time you proc this, it's irrelevant. You either have enough damage to KO your opponent, in which case you don't need the tokens to stack up your pitch. You're either lost enough cards from hand where you can't activate the gold. If you're saving them for your next turn, guess what? You've spent final act. You might have spent 2 final acts. You might have spent a final act and an encore. You now have a chance of getting another one, getting some back. There's just not enough in Melody's toolkit. Your best bet is, something like Remembrance, so that you can recycle final act and encore, so that you can load up another combo to KO someone else. In which case, the amount of gold you generate is still not impactful enough. At 4 gold, right? 4 gold means you need 2 blues in hand to go positive on a draw. Means you can pop 3 gold to get a +1 in hand, right? You put 2 in the pitch, so it's decent for Melody. In most other heroes, going +1 is also decent. But again, that absolutely requires 2 blues in hand that you don't want to play, that are just solely to pitch into the gold to lucky dip 3 other cards, right? Again, Flesh and Blood is highly strategic, and its emphasis is on consistency, right? It's like Yu-Gi-Oh! You want consistent plays. Something so variable is just fun. It's never going to have a proper impact in the game. Unlike, again, Crossroads, where the upside is direct payoff. Instead of playing or pitching the card you're revealing, you now get to reveal it and gain a resource if you need to pitch it, gain life or extra damage, right? There's still great upsides that counterbalance the whole act of fusing. Now, what about other heroes? Again, straight away jumps out to me is Victor, because you have the inbuilt effect to utilize gold, right? So the first time you create a gold token from an effect you control, draw a card, meaning that, again, Deathmatch Arena becomes create gold and draw a card. That is fantastic. Again, you still just need the KO, so that is a big conditional restraint, but it's still straight away better payoff than Melody. Betsy is the other one with the new headpiece, so that you can actually, burn the gold tokens without spending resources, so that's fine too. Everyone else, it is just drawing cards. In fact, rather than Melody, I'd say the more fun interaction is either Wizard, being able to ping anyone at the table is now great, or in Draconic, where you can use the gold to stack up your pitch with reds, right? Burn 1 gold, pitch 2 red, and then go into Flamescale Furnace. I think that is better upside than anything else. But in a lot of heroes, it is dead weight, right? Yes, if you're in a pitch and you want to cycle a card, look for something, again, if you can go for the 3 gold, 2 blues to go positive and draw. But personally, I think the requirements are too hard, and the upside is just too equal for everyone at the table. It has nothing to really counteract the -1 to hand, other than that first turn being able to attack someone adjacent. So again, as a finisher, right, where everything is set up and you can play this and attack the person across from you, it's fun. It's flavorful. I wouldn't call it fantastic still, because that is still just a conditional requirement that doesn't have a huge chance of happening. It might happen, but again, would you bank on that rather than playing a normal deck, playing something else that has, again, consistent upside? I'm not saying it is a unattractive card, but it is, to me personally, definitely a bad card. It is fun, it is interesting, it is great design, and it's quirky, which are things I love, right? Because it shows that they're not rigid in their development. They are thinking about just interesting new ideas and putting cards like this out there to see how they work and function, right? What if UPF, you could attack anyone? Fantastic. It just is such a downside. If it was like, play this, draw a card. As soon as you draw it, play it. What other scenarios would it be more beneficial? If it was singular, again, just affecting you, maybe. If there was another third effect that made it, again, last longer in a UPF game other than, again, 4 people or higher. Or simply if the gold tokens were higher. Again, in a static 4-player game, creating 4 gold, you can get that 1 draw upside. But in most scenarios, you'd rather be Betsy or Victor to have other alternative ways to play the gold tokens. I mean, cash-in is fine, but cash-in isn't going to burn the 4 tokens. This is just a incredibly win more card, which in Flesh and Blood, I don't think ever really has a place. Because if you're at that point, then what's the need? It will be fun, it will be interesting, it'll be cool to see, but it is not a good card, and it is, again, in my personal opinion, definitely not a Melody card. The shift in dynamic is not enough to make it good, right? As Melody, chances are you'd rather, form a pact with the person across from you to attack someone left or right of you, rather than just out of the blue target them. The other constraint to remember is, until you've played this, there's no guarantee that they're any weaker than the person to your left or right, because up until now, you couldn't have attacked them. So it is fully dependent on the person going before you, who they decide to attack. Do they weaken you, make this card worse in hand? Do they weaken them, make this card better in hand? There are so many conditional requirements to this card that I cannot see it in any form or fashion being anything other than a gimmick, being anything other than fun and flavorful, which is even more interesting because pre-release prices are normal Fable prices. And I think that is gonna get you hurt, right? If you buy this card for 250, be fully prepared. This will drop lower than Blooded Drakar, Master Cog, even Crossroads, which has no pilot right now. I cannot see this being anything more than, you know, a collector's piece. And yes, it's a good looking card. I don't know. I think Crossroads is a little bit prettier. So if you want to buy one of them just to hold on collect, you've got the fact that this is from the Tales of Aria block versus Deathmatch Arena, which, as far as we know, is not out of print. Even the Dust Till Dawn, Light of Soul, right, would still be a better pick to hold on to. And what's more, again, this card will never change. I don't see any rule shift, any change in format that would make this better. Whereas, again, you get new Elemental Heroes, you get new Light Heroes, you get new Draconic Heroes. All these other Fables have that upside, that potential to be more usable down the road. And then the last thing to consider, right, that I'm sure everyone's gone through, is there's no rainbow foil. So that makes it rarer. No, right? There's still going to be the equivalent amount of cold foils unless they've tweaked the rates, but I doubt that. It just means that there's not a cheaper variety for people to buy if it was playable and highly desired for play. It's not, which I think LSS clearly knows. So again, just to sum up, it's a fun, flavorful card with an interesting and cool effect, but it is horribly designed. In a game like Flesh and Blood that is competitive and strategic, the fact that you are giving everyone upside while you yourself gaining one turn to capitalize on, at the cost of losing one card in hand, does not make this a good, consistent card. In Melody, any point where these effects come to matter and you're going to restock your gold, what's the point? You've burnt Final Act, you've burnt Encore, you need some way to get them back. You've burnt your other tokens, so 4 gold is not going to make a big impact. Again, because it's 2 cost, if you're not running all blues, say it's 1 card per, it's still only a bonus 8 damage to Final Act. It's not huge. And then in most other heroes, right, if it happens, cool. If not, it doesn't really matter. In Betsy and Victor, at least you have the direct payoffs to gold. If I had to rank them, again, I think the ability to ping anyone with Arcane is probably its best utility effect, followed by, again, being able to burn the gold tokens with consistent effects, like Betsy and the headpiece or Victor's inbuilt. By the time you want to use it for, say, Kasai, you've probably already built up your sellswords. I don't believe Olympia has any real gold payoff other than just generating gold. So maybe you're running blues, maybe you're using it to go plus cards in hand. But overall, these scenarios are coming near the end of the game. And that could be the big boost to help you win, sure. But it's all reliant on who strikes first and who does that final blow. It will create fun, interesting dynamics in UPF, but it is just a fun, flavorful card. I don't think it's a good card. I would say novelty promo, but there are actually some decent novelty promos out there.